I just really felt the need to get back into heavy music after doing about 6 years with Seamless. I just felt like it was time. The world is in such a place where I think it's really crucial for heavy music to start saying something. It's important that that voice be heard. So, long story short, I tried doing it on my own, and it just wasn't fulfilling me. I didn't feel it. So I got a call from my buddy Nick, who I've been friends with for years. He's a great rock and jazz musician. I actually lived with him and a bunch of other musicians in Rhode Island years back. And he said that he found a 17-year-old kid who was just incredible at guitar. And he really wanted to potentially have me sing on the project. And originally I was like, yeah, man, like a Buckethead style, like middle guitar with like trip hop beats or something crazy like that. And that didn't really happen. We got a jazz drummer, Alec, who joined the fold and started to turn into a real full-on metal band, but played by the 17-year-old kid was writing all the riffs, and I got 2 jazz musicians playing metal. So it really was a feel more about the groove. And I went into the project, guys, basically saying, man, I've got a real sort of agenda that I want to attach to these lyrics. I want to, really speak my mind, and some of it might be a little controversial because I want it to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I don't want people to be totally comfortable when they're listening to it. I want them to have to think, not nonsense music that's just there to make people bang their heads. It's really about the message, about people just waking up and realizing that this world's really screwed up. There's a lot of problems. A lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are angry. There's got to be a way to vent it. And also, as with anything that I do, I always strive to uplift people and educate them and just let people be aware. It's all about keeping your eyes open. And as I grow older now, I'm starting to really go back to my punk rock roots, my punk rock ethos. The whole fuck the system. Like, it's basically what I'm reverting back to, but doing it in a way where it's intelligent. It's not, basically that. I mean, just about researching, questioning authority, questioning the state of affairs, questioning the United States government, and not taking anything that the media says just for face value and just researching. And I'm just at the point in my life now where I feel like we need a wake-up call. Our younger generation needs a wake-up call. Use your voice. If you got something, you got a talent, you got a way to uplift people, do it. And that's, to me, that's what Empire Shall Fall is. Everybody that's in this band now, we replaced the drummer with this guy Jeff, who's more of a metal drummer. We put a second guitarist on, and that track is the one that's on MySpace now. And it shows a little more of a progressive direction, but everybody's down for the cause. I mean, it's really a full-on thing. It's not just a band. We're a group. We're going to be doing essays and basically just writing pieces just to get people aware, to have people do research about everything, from the food you eat to our government to racism, all that, and just sort of like keep people aware. Like, it's time to rise up. It's time to wake up. We need a mental revolution, and not just in this country, but the world over. Like, people need to wake up. And that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, you mentioned the government, you mentioned media, you mentioned, the food that you eat. Specifically for you, what are some important issues aside from those that you really want to address?
Yeah, I try, as an artist, as a musician, I try to keep things in such a way where, I may be talking about something specific, but I leave it open to interpretation. So it's not something that I want to sit on my soapbox and shove a particular issue down your throat. Personally, that's not where I'm coming from. I want to just sort of bring up issues and songs and sort of paint it with a broad brushstroke. So I think if people are really tuned in to the lyrics and what I'm saying, you're going to get what I'm going for. But I'm not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. Because to me, that's a turnoff in music. I remember back in the early hard days going to see bands like a Krishna band that would just sit up there and preach, or a straight edge band, and they shove that stuff down your throat, or a Christian band, and I'm a Christian, but I'm not a preacher. I'm not a politician. I'm trying to, like for example, Bob Dylan, perfect example of what I would like to go for with Empire Shall Fall. You knew what he was talking about, but he wasn't shoving it down your throat. He was giving you poetry. So for me to, I mean, I'll give you a broad brushstroke of issues, but I think it's important to note that it's not about one particular thing. It's just about raising awareness. So to throw a couple more topics on fire here, I'm actually working on a song right now that mixes American history, like the Revolutionary War. You know, what really happened in the Revolutionary War, or 9/11 truth, you know, which is a very touchy subject, especially here in New York. But if you go down to ground zero, you can see people that stand out there day in, day out, and they talk about the lies that are told. They talk about the victims that are threatened. It's like this whole big, quote-unquote, conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to me that Americans will not research this. You meet people that will get very upset when you bring that up. And how dare you question our government, and how dare you, you know, say that that was an inside job, that our government allowed it to happen. Well, I feel like, regardless of whether you believe it or not, for you to just swallow what the media fed us, what your fellow neighbors tell you to think, and you don't research it for yourself, to me that's crazy. But that's where we are in America. You know, we're at a point where people work 9 to 5, they come home, turn on the TV, they watch the local news, and that's their Bible. You know, they get up, they go to bed, and they get up the next day and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like, we can't be like that in this country. I mean, look at us. Whether you want to believe it or not, we just got robbed blind by our government. They took all of our money away, and people are like, well, Obama will save us. It's like, that's not even the point. It goes so much deeper than Obama. It goes so much deeper than, you know, the regular media bullshit that we're fed every day. And I mean, I'm 30 years old. I'm looking at my generation going, where's the outrage? Where's the, people who are questioning it? I'm not saying you're going to be, you know, a full-on revolutionary and start protests. At least question this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I meet so many people every day who they just don't question stuff. They just swallow it and everything's copacetic, everything's fine. And it's not. I think, you know, I look back to draw, again, from my roots in punk rock. I look back on the Reagan era, you know, when punk rock really got visceral, really got just in your face, you know, because the youth were frustrated, they're pissed off. And that's how they should be now. But I look at, you know, the younger generation, and they're so tied up with reality TV, with, you know, MySpace, Facebook, texting, and it's like, shut it all off. Check it out, man. Like, the ship's going down. What are we doing about it? What is anyone doing about it? So I'm pissed off, and you know, it's like, I just feel like it's a wake-up call. All that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could talk this for hours, but that's why I'm trying to put it in the songs to sort of just plant the seed in people's mind to let them make up their own opinions, but don't just sit passively by, swallow what you're given.
This is about, I don't know, like 2 months ago I started watching this newscast. It's from it's broadcasted out of New York. It's called Democracy Now! I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Dude, I love, like, I can't even watch network news now, like major networks.
Well, you know, it's a large smokescreen, man. It's like, it's wag the dog. It really is. If you're paying attention, you're really paying attention to different news sources. You know, I listen to the BBC, I listen to Alex Jones, I listen to, they even listen to Rush Limbaugh. You got to get both sides. And I think that's another problem we have in this country. Oh, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican. It's like, it's a joke. It's not about that. Mm-hmm. It's so much broader than that. And you're right. Mainstream media is tough, man. You don't know what you're getting. But as I get older, the more I feel confused, the more I'm like, I don't know what to think, but I think to not react is the ultimate form of violence. And I think that there's a lot of violence, a lot of people who are willing to just shrug it off, and not, there's no concern. There's just this cloud of apathy over people, you know, and so that's great, man. Democracy Now! Is great. I mean, you go to the Empire Shall Fall MySpace page, and we've got a section of links that are from all over the place. You know, different sides, whether it's right or left or conservative or liberal. Like, check it all out, man. I mean, take time out of your day. I mean, shoot, even like once a week, just to research. You know, so you hear a story on the news, the mainstream news, everyone in your job or your peers are talking about it, like, look into that. Look under the surface. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so important because so many people are just willing to swallow what's told on mainstream media, and it's like, all right, that's how it is. Everything's fine.
Are you familiar with Noam Chomsky?
Yes, I am.
What do you think about some of the stuff that he says?
I think it's very important what he's saying, and I think that he falls in line with people like I can't think of his name right now. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. He ran for president. I can't think of his name.
Ralph Nader?
No. Anyway, I'm having a brain fart.
That's right.
But I think, that's my point is like, you could take somebody like him. You could take somebody like I don't know, Alex Jones, for example, on the like people who are extremists. You know, like, I think that it's important to pay attention to what they say and then check them out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
definitely.
If they say one thing, don't again. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record here, but it's like no matter where you get it from, question it. I think that's basically my point. I don't want to keep saying it over and over.
No, I agree with you, man. I mean, you mentioned Alex Jones. I remember watching this thing that he did on YouTube where he's talking to one of the Rothschilds, and he's totally just like criticizing this guy on the phone about like all the things that they've done just for money.
I'm really careful on what I take in and what I say I stand by, because, you know, I'm not in the business of upsetting people. That's not what I'm here on this earth to do. I don't feel like that's my calling. I'm not here to piss people off. But I just think it's so important to somebody like Alex Jones. There's a little bit of hype behind it, but if you really pay attention to what he's saying and you listen to his show, which he has a streaming thing on the internet, he makes a lot of valid points. You know, and it's points that your average American would hear and be shocked and be like, no, there's no way. And he might be going a little extreme, but it's like, at least he's questioning that. At least, to me, he's a patriot, you know? He's a little extreme, and some of the stuff he says, I'm not sure if it's true, and I don't subscribe to it, but the fact that dude is putting his time and effort into doing that kind of stuff, to me, that's like Paul Revere, you know? He's like telling people, wake up. You know, New World Order is right around the corner, like breaking stuff down that's happening, and, you know, and taking media clips and playing them for you and analyzing them. You know, that to me is amazing. That's not personally something that I could do because it takes a lot of research and time, but I just feel like people like that are what's making the difference today, you know, in our society.
How have your views changed, you know, with what you've been talking about now? How have they changed over the years, you know, from the Killswitch days or even before that?
I'd say with the Killswitch days, I was young, you know. I talk about Killswitch all the time, but people seem to forget I was young. I was in my early 20s, and I was living in a big sort of commune house at the time, very much into reggae, which I still am very much into reggae and reggae culture, and sort of not hippie, but, you know, just kind of like really, really. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of naive. I think I was naive at that age, you know, and I really wanted to save the world. And Bob Marley has always been sort of one of my main inspirations, the guy that just moves me every time I hear some of his stuff. That's still very much a part of it, but I think as I grew, and you know, I've maintained a blue-collar life. I've maintained a very hard-working life. I'm not a rock star by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I live check to check, you know, and a lot of people wouldn't believe me if I said that, but I think that's what's grounded me and kept me sort of where I am with my lyrics and my music. You know, my urgency, which I really do feel a state of urgency within myself. Like I don't have a choice. I can't not make music. I can't not do it. You know, I don't see myself getting comfortable and settling down anytime soon. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit the road due to the money situation, but to me, it's like that I'm like, I don't know how to describe it. I feel the need for this stuff. Like, when I go to bed at night, you know, I'm thinking about lyrics. I'm thinking about writing a song. And I'm not even just doing the Empire Shall Fall. I'm actually taking on a bunch of projects. I'm doing some producing now. I'm producing a female vocalist, and it's kind of a mixture of world music, lounge music, salsa, trip hop. But basically, my bottom line with anything I'm doing is all about the message. And back in the Killswitch days, I wanted to put my arms around the world and save everybody and make everyone feel good. And that's a very valid thing to want. And I stand by. I stand by all my lyrics. I stand by leaving Killswitch for the reasons that I did. I stand by all of that. But I'm a different person now, and unfortunately, when you are in the workforce and you're a blue collar worker, there's always a sense of uneasiness. There's always a sense of struggle. And for me, I'm very much in touch with my anger and frustration these days. And I think that that's kind of why I'm really focusing on an effort towards the Empire Shall Fall. But even with the project Times of Grace, to bring that up, people are going to see a different side of me once again, because the album I did with Adam is sort of a concept. But I mean, that would be for another question. I mean, that's a whole other rant I could go off on.
I've read a lot about the Killswitch situation. I've heard a lot of rumors. Obviously, you don't know what's true, what's exaggerated. What was going through your life, your head? How did you feel around that time that you decided to leave Killswitch?
I don't know, I'd say the bottom line for me leaving is just not being prepared for life on the road. And I mean that in a physical sense. I mean that in a spiritual sense. I mean that in an emotional sense. People don't. All the people who are sort of the armchair warriors that get on these internet posts and talk so much trash. Because I've definitely peeked in on some of them. And I've learned to stop doing that because it's just very discouraging to hear what people say. But I think what's important is I can wake up every day, look in the mirror, and I don't regret a thing. I could never see myself in Killswitch where they are right now. That's not me. I'm not that kind of an artist, and I think that they're a great band. I think they're doing awesome for what they're doing. I'm proud of those guys because they're my friends. I'm really stoked on their success. I think Howard's a great vocalist, and I have nothing bad to say about those guys. But that's not the kind of band I want to be in. At the time, for me, it was important to get out there for the message, for the words. Again, the urgency that I carry with me. But I had just gotten married. I fell deeply in love with this girl, Melissa, my wife. And, a week, 3 or 4 days after we got married, I was out in LA shooting a video for My Last Serenade, which is a terrible video. I'll say that now. And then right on tour, and a lot of stuff, man. I mean, you're in a van with people that, I didn't grow up with those guys. We weren't like super, super great friends. Like we were cool. We hung out, but I didn't know them on a deep level. So when I got out there and I started to get depressed and tired and throat infection, nasal infection, like brutal, because I just didn't know how to live on the road. Like there's a certain way you got to be. At least for me personally, everybody's different. I've got buddies when I toured with Seamless for like a year and a half. I saw people that was getting drunk every night and smoking cigarettes, and they're fine the next morning. And me, if that was me, I'd be dying, and my voice suffers for it. So I learned my lesson. But I just wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. In retrospect, I could have done it differently. I could have been a little more graceful with my departure, but it is what it is. I acted on what I thought was right. I followed my heart, and I don't regret any of that stuff, man.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation that you were at your studio in your dad's church. I read somewhere that your dad was a minister, or is a minister.
Yes, he is.
How much does Christianity affect your life and the music that you write?
Again, going back to what I said earlier, I'm not a preacher and not a politician. So for me, I'm not up here trying to sort of preach the gospel. I am definitely a Christian and I have strong faith, but it's hard to say. I mean, basically this is it. It's my view of the world. When I sit down and write lyrics, it's me, like, it's honest. I'm writing as honest as I can, and I think I owe that to people. I owe that to people who are bothering to listen to what I have to say. I've got to be myself and be honest. Now, what's behind those lyrics? I mean, if you read my lyrics, it's pretty obvious, like, sometimes what I'm talking about. And especially in Killswitch, there was tons of Christian imagery, tons of that stuff in there, purposely. But that's, you know, I ride this fine line because I don't listen to Christian music. I'm not a fan. I've tried so many times to listen to Christian music, and I start listening to it, and I just feel like, it's kind of dorky. And I have friends, Christian friends, who are like, oh, that's wrong. It's not about that. It's about the message. And I get that. I understand. It's a beautiful thing. But I'm a musician. Like, I come from hardcore and punk rock, so I'm pretty picky with what I like to listen to. I mean, all that's changed with modern Christian music now, with all the metal bands that are Christian, which is incredible. But I'm not trying to. My main thing when I'm up on stage, I'm not trying to save anybody. I'm not trying to interject religion or that's not the main point. I guess basically what it is. I don't see myself as a Christian musician, but I am a Christian writing music. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's really not my main goal when I'm writing music. It's just me writing, again, honest, from an honest perspective, you know, as a Christian person. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Oh, no, definitely. I understand where you're coming from, for sure.
I don't. You know what it is too. I don't want to turn people off. I consider myself more of an artist than I do sort of an evangelist. You know, I feel like people need to make up their own minds. I don't want to shove anything down anybody's throat. I want them to make up their own minds. But I do sprinkle stuff in there to sort of make people think, and it's my own perspective as a Christian. But I don't see myself as an evangelist. That's the word I was looking for.
You're talking about getting people to think. That's been a theme throughout this whole conversation. I know you did probably, I don't know, 8 months ago. You had this mixtape thing going on.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I've got 75 songs, dude, sitting in my email that I have not had time to touch, and some of them are amazing songs. And I'll eventually get to it, but I mean, I'm working on a film. I'm scoring a film. I'm doing my own solo stuff, which is kind of dub, trip-hop stuff. I'm this female friend of mine is a great vocalist. I just haven't had any time to touch that stuff.
What was the initial goal with the mixtape?
The goal of the mixtape was, I was bored at the time. I was very bored. There was no stimulation. This is before I had the Empire Shut Fall going full throttle. Before I was really, really focused on the project with Adam. I was just, you know, working my 9 to 5 and coming home being like, trying to write music and being so exhausted and drained from work that there was no creativity. So I was like, and I'm a big fan of underground hip-hop, especially the early 90s stuff, like, raised on that stuff. I love it. You know, the old school stuff like KRS-One, Public Enemy, the stuff that was really saying something. And what I found is, you know, you look even now, they still do it. Mixtapes. DJs and MCs will do mixtapes. And I've always been a fan of that. You know, I go to parties whenever I hear these mixtapes, it's like, oh, that's cool that this DJ is working with that MC, and it's not an official release. It's just something that somebody sold out of the trunk of their car. You know, it's like underground. It's so, to me, that's so punk rock. And I'm thinking to myself, how come we, you know, aggressive music has never done that? That's the most brilliant thing. I was just like, I got to do this. So I sent out the email. I got a couple of entries in. I was like, I started working on it. Before I knew it, my Gmail was filled. I mean, I think last time I checked was a couple weeks ago, I had like 70 MP3s from all over the world.
Oh, wow.
And ranging from gothic death metal to gutter punk to indie rock to ambient to metalcore, whatever that is, and hardcore. So I'll eventually do it, but I haven't had any spare time to do it.
And you said you're doing a film as well.
Yeah, it's kind of been on hiatus because the director was working on the new Steve-O show, the Jackass crew there. He was in LA for a while. But the director is Greg Kaplan, who shot all of the interview footage for the Roadrunner United concert DVD.
Mm-hmm.
So I shot my footage with him at his apartment in New York City, and he pitched the movie to me. I thought it was great, so I accepted it. But it's been tough, man, with both of our schedules, getting stuff done. And it's very DIY. A lot of the shots we do are just me and him and you know, his camera. And I'll look at the shots done during the day, and I start scoring. I've written about 3 or 4 songs for it. but it's sort of on hiatus right now. But we hope to start working again this spring to finish it up.
What are your goals from here on out? You said you work a 9 to 5 job. Tell me a little bit about that and what you plan to do in the future.
My 9 to 5 job is really not totally worth speaking about. It's just totally. I'm a paper pusher for a medical facility. It's a job that I do not enjoy. But where I'm at in my life right now with my debt from touring, and I have a house that I no longer live in. I'm still paying a mortgage on, plus paying rent here in New York. So my bills are pretty high. So I've got to bust my butt at this job. That's a means doing that really doesn't play much into my life. At 5 o'clock or so, I shut my brain off to that, and I go home and I try to live my life as best as I can as an artist, creative person, which is pretty tough to balance two things. You talk to anybody who works 10, 11 hours a day and gets home, and what do you do? Like I'm not satisfied just plopping on the couch and being lifeless, but some days I got to do that. So as far as me and my goals, I need I need to get my stupid house paid off, and once that mortgage is out of my life, I don't even care if I worked at a cafe part time and just had more time for my music, more time to produce, more time to get into films. I mean, that's what I love. I love art. I love being creative. I like expressing myself. And now that I live here in New York, I've lived here for about a year and a half. I'm always downtown. I'm always down in the city, walking around, going to shows, talking to people, trying to make contacts, which is a whole other crazy rat race. But eventually, I would love to live off my art. I mean, just like any artist would. But being a musician, it's tough. If you're not touring 300 days out of the year, especially nowadays with the downloading generation and album sales dropping, it's impossible. It's near impossible. And I don't know, man. There's a part of me that misses touring big time. Like I love the road. I love traveling. I miss that a lot. And I'm sure I'm not done with it, but I don't see myself as a full-time touring musician. I would rather be a person who could juggle 5 or 6 projects and and sort of jet set, like with the project with Adam, Times of Grace project. We've talked about doing live shows, but I mean, homeboy's on the road, live Killswitch, and if he's not doing that, he's producing. So I would say stuff to him like, "Oh, we did like a day," or flew out to Japan and did like a week and came home, and like stuff like that. I really like to do that kind of stuff where I'm not a touring musician, still out in the public eye doing shows, because I love to perform. It's the best thing in the world.